Hello, I'm Jonathan Stroud, and you're watching SableCaught.
Now, expectations are a dangerous thing. Often if a book comes to me with the most glowing of recommendations and veritable Everests of praise, then it's gonna have a bad time. I'll say there was nothing especially wrong with it, that there were no obvious abscesses polluting the plot, yet my inevitable results will reflect disappointment. The hype will have simply been too great for the original book to sustain. As such, when the screaming staircase tremulously tiptoed into my meaty grasp, it had a right to be afraid. I wasn't going to cut it any slack. I would be judging it by the highest of high standards, because all the while reading this book, I would be comparing it to this author's previous child, to the Bartimaeus sequence, a series I bedecked and beribboned and bedored as absolutely perfect in every way. This world, these characters, they had expectations to live up to, and they did. So imagine our world, but with a twist. 50 years ago, the problem began. It was just a splash of mist, a drop in temperature, a slight shiver, and then the ghosts. Ghosts that only children can see. The older you get, the harder it is to see them and hear them until one day you can't sense them at all anymore. As such, it is children who are loaded down with magnesium flares, shown the pointy end of a steel sabre and bustled off into haunted houses. It is children this world relies on to venture out after dark, to fight the unseen, to put an end to these horrors. So the Screaming Staircase introduces us to Lockwood Co, a small ghost hunting agency from London. They are determined to compete with the great, long-established agencies of ghost hunting fame. But they do tend to forget that there's only 3 of them. George, who forsook these companies for Lockwood's. Lucy, fresh from the country and determined to prove herself. And then, of course, Lockwood himself. The boy who really shouldn't be running his own company, who shouldn't own his own house, who really shouldn't look that damn good in a greatcoat. And yet, somehow it does. And one thing they also have, one thing that seems preposterous. No adult supervision. Despite Lockwood's firm belief that they're all ghost hunting savants and by far the best in the business, their firm keeps, as Lucy so elegantly puts it, cocking everything up. In fact, even as our story starts, they manage to do so to the tune of 60 grand. With a mysteriously murdered young girl they just can't keep off their minds, a reputation to regain and considerable debts that need repaying, it looks like they might just do something stupid. They might enter into a situation which is beyond their means and tackle ghosts that might cost them their lives. Well, that is if they don't end up killing each other first. From the opening pages, Jonathan Stroud's books set themselves apart. You're just stepping off from paragraph 1 and suddenly you're sniggering. The setup has taken a sharp turn to the left and the tropes have subverted themselves. This is different. And this is good. Now, it's one of my reviewer rules never to compare anything to Harry Potter. There was a time when every character was proclaimed the new boy wizard, every author the new J.K. Rowling, and as a reader, I hated it. Remember that thing I said about expectations? So I'm not comparing this to Harry Potter. Well, not really. But there were some great things about this story that I feel really simply can be best communicated to you by comparison to our cupboard-dwelling adventurers' tales. Firstly, the old-fashioned feel to it. I was lucky enough to speak to Jonathan himself about his new book. Do go watch my interview with him if you haven't seen it already. He was absolutely brilliant to talk to. And he explained that their world was our world until the ghosts started appearing. Thus, the research that we put into developing the internet and mobile phones, they put into developing ghost lamps and portable iron. I felt this odd sense of the quaint, though, was carried through further into the story. In the celebrations, in the food, into the fact that you couldn't tackle the paranormal properly without a good cup of tea. It really reminded me of boarding school valour, of secret midnight feasts, of lashings of ginger beer. It had an element to it which I consider very British, this combination of relations and humour and expectations. I just think it made a brilliant tone for this story. Secondly, one thing I loved about Harry Potter, and that you'll find across my favourite children's books, is that they put power into their child protagonists' hands. J.K. Rowling ostensibly does this with wands, Stroud supposedly with the adult's inability to see spectres, yet really all both of them do is give children the opportunity to prove themselves, to exhibit the courage and cunning and dedication we all secretly hope is inside of us. Reading these books, we feel included. We feel like we too could take part, that in these extraordinary circumstances, we too could defeat dark wizards, put down ghosts, enter into the fray and prove ourselves. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of Jonathan's books and what you think of The Sound of the Screaming Staircase. As I said, I was completely enthralled with it. I would recommend it so highly for the adventure, for the humour, for a good story well told. Anyway, I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments down below. Other than that, I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys!